I'm Coach Seb, and this is Running New Mexico. Joining me today, I have Chase Ealey. She is a Los Alamos graduate. She is a three-time national champion, the shot put. She's been a state champ. She went to Oklahoma State, currently ranked, has the top throw with IAAF rankings. So thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad I finally got your name down.
I know, finally.
So my first question is you're obviously a shot putter, but you did do some running in high school. So I do want to start with how you got into running.
Well, my mom was a track athlete, and I quit softball, and in New Mexico, that those two sports run at the same time. And so my
Right.
mom was like, "Why don't you just go out for track to stay in shape for, your other sports?" And I said, "Okay." And I went to tryouts, and I didn't even have proper shoes on, and I did all the tryouts, and I was pretty fast, and I made varsity basically on the spot. And I just like, I feel like when you get that kind of recognition right away, you get attracted to it right away. So I began like really getting into it, and I was sprinting a lot and loving sprinting. And then obviously, I was on the team with my sister, and she was a thrower as well, and that's when the throwing element got added.
Nice.
But I was a sprinter who threw in high school for sure.
Not a
Not the other
thrower
way.
who sprinted.
Yeah, exactly.
You ran the 100 and 200, right?
Yeah, I did the 4x1, and the 4x2 mainly.
Nice. Those are nice, quick events that I know a lot of sprinters are like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, I always, I always felt like at meets, I always felt cool being like in the shot ring and being like, sorry, I have to go run the 4x2. Like, see you later. But yeah, the one in the 4x1 is always nice because it's the first events and you just get them done in New Mexico.
Right, right. And you obviously, like you talked about, you got into throwing. Um, what position did you play in softball?
I was like outfield or catcher, which are two completely different things, but I played the outfield a lot because I could throw so far, like from outfield to the catcher.
Right.
But I like to catcher because I like to just sit down.
Well, I was going to ask, because obviously sometimes throwing and having that arm strength, and I know you threw javelin in high school as well, right?
Yeah, that was where the overlap happened the most because I just started throwing jav because I could throw a softball so far, and then my sister threw shot put. And honestly, I did not really care about shot put, if I'm being honest. It was just like to hang out with my sister, which is funny because we ran the relays together, which was always nice. Like I always thought that was cool to be on relay teams with my sister. And I just wanted to like keep that going by hanging out with her longer, which was doing shot and jav. But I much preferred sprinting in high school for sure.
That's really kind of cool because a lot of times, with a lot of the siblings I've worked with, it's like if one does sprints, the other one's like going off to distance or doing like they don't want to spend time with each other because they're sick of each other already.
Yeah. No, I feel like at that age, me and my sister, well, even now, we're really close. But when we were in high school, we hung in the same friend groups and stuff. So, we just always wanted to hang out and chill and be around each other. And she was always really supportive because she was a basketball player and track was like her second sport. And track slowly became my main sport. Um, or not slowly, it actually quickly became my main sport. And she was like so hyped. She was like my like hype man at every meet, and um it was just nice to have her there, and I just always wanted to be around her cuz she was always the one like hyping me up and getting me going in meets.
That's really cool. That's awesome to have that connection with your sister like that. Like, I
Yeah, we
mean,
could never actually hand off to each other in relays because they tried having her third leg in the 4x1 because she's better in curves. And when we would have any baton troubles, it would just be like us arguing like sisters. And yeah, and Paul Anderson was our coach then. He's like retired now, but he was like, I'm not dealing with this. Like, you guys have got to be on different like legs. And we were like, that's fine. So she moved to second leg, so we weren't near each other at all.
that's funny. I know we had a couple of girls. They were actually twins, and my head coach was so excited when he could put them on the medley relay together and have the 400 to the 800, exchange with them.
Right. And then the other runners being like, what's happening?
Right.
What's going on?
Oh, that's that's really cool. Like I said, I think that's awesome that you and your sister had that relationship then, and obviously like still continuing that now, where it was just you were hanging out together. Like I said, I don't think there's a lot of people in high school. I don't think necessarily have that relationship with their sibling.
Yeah, it's typically the opposite, but I don't know. I feel like Los Alamos is like uh pretty small, so like the groups were pretty much like athletes hung out, and so obviously me and my sister ended up like hanging out, and then we were just like cool with it, I guess. Like we were just chill. So I liked doing all like I did all my sports with her, and I wouldn't have had it any other way, to be honest.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, you talked about quitting softball, getting into track. What year was that? Was that your freshman year, or was that
Yeah, that
older?
was going into my freshman year. So like I was on the JV softball team in 8th grade. And I'd been playing, I played baseball as a kid, and then they made me move to softball because I'm a girl.
Right.
And I honestly didn't really like softball much. I liked all the girls, and I'd been playing with them like my whole life, but it got to where it was just like friendship camp instead of like me actually wanting to do it.
Okay.
Um, and then my mom was obviously like a pretty good track athlete when she was younger. So she pushed it a lot because my mom's really like a sport mom. Like my mom is like that mom that's like, you're gonna do a sport. And then me and my sister ended up just being like really in love with it. And so she was like, well, what about track? And I was like, what about it? I don't want to run, like. And then I was like, oh, I'm good at this. And then it like you're attracted to stuff when you're good at it. So running wasn't exactly what I seeked to do as an athlete. Like I was like, ugh, running. Like you just think of it so negatively, but then when you do it, it's pretty nice. I mean, the workouts were atrocious, but the reward was great.
Well, I think you're so right. Like, there's something to be said, you know, when you start something and you already know that you're successful, you see some success in it. Like, you're right. Like, you're gonna be pulled to it and drawn to it just because. Oh, well, I'm good at this. Like, that feels good. I get that endorphin dump or whatever of like people cheering you.
Yeah, like I think when I showed up to tryouts and like to see like the head coach's reaction to like how fast I was and stuff, like as like a natural born athlete, someone who'd been playing sports since I was 4, like you seek that out, and it was just like the immediate like recognition for like what I was doing was like I was like in love right away. I was like, hell yeah, like I'm gonna do this, like this is it.
That's awesome. How did you get into becoming? You said you talked that you were more of a sprinter who threw. When did that transition come that you felt like you were more of a thrower?
Well, I was playing volleyball and I was more into volleyball. I kind of was getting recruited for that and a few schools for basketball, but I had like a lot of track offers. And I was just good at shot put because I'm just a strong person. So like my numbers were fairly good, but I was getting recruited a lot from colleges for like multis
Right.
mainly actually. And when like they would talk to me because I only had one official visit, which was to OSU, but when they would talk to me like on the phone and stuff, a lot of them were just attracted to like my overall like all state in volleyball, basketball, track, all that stuff.
Right.
And the coaches that like were really like more interested in like my overall athletic ability were the throws coaches. And the sprint coaches just like weren't really, I don't know, but I don't know how really how to explain it. They just like weren't coming at me in the way that the throws coaches were. And then the multis kind of went out right away because it's really hard. Like I'm not gonna lie, and I didn't really want to do the extra work. And the OSU coach came to one of my volleyball games because he just wanted to like watch me as an athlete, which was nice. But I just felt like throws coaches were regarding me as like an athlete rather than like one thing. And then I also didn't want to have to lose a bunch of weight in college because I was a bigger sprinter and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to like get bogged down by that whole thing. And obviously the throws coaches were like, well, with us, you'll gain weight. And I was like, heck yeah to that. Um, so I it was all very like athletically based. Like I really just liked the way like throwing felt at that point. Like the vibe of it better from like the coaches and stuff. And so I started my senior year to more focus on shot and jav. And after that, I really realized that like I was kind of vibing with shot put, and I found out like more about it. Like I found out who Valerie Adams was and stuff. And I just got way more into shot. And then I almost went to UNM for volleyball and javelin because they
Oh,
said I
and
could do both. Um, but then I was like, no, I want to leave the state. Like I love New Mexico, but I you're like from a small place in a small place in a big nation. You kind of want to see what you can see.
yeah.
And I chose Oklahoma State because I liked the coach and um, I wanted to throw things. And I sprinted there a little on the relay team, but I kind of lost my like love for sprinting my senior year anyway, and throwing became more of my focus.
Huh, it's really interesting. I was going to ask you actually about the multis because with your sprinting and the throwing, like it just seemed like, I mean, obviously it's not easy. Like you said, there's a lot to it. I mean, when you have to start throwing in hurdles and then you've got to run an 800. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like athletically I would easily have been capable because my head coach, he obviously in high school was really like track focused. Like he did good at getting people to schools and stuff. And so he was really like we were doing time trials and stuff of all the events. I was jumping, I was high jumping just to see like what I could do to see how if I was interested and on like I liked it, but it was just like I don't want to be good at a bunch of things. I want to be super super great at one thing, like
Yeah.
I found myself wanting more of that like I just wanted like the pure event like focus and success, and the multis like training wasn't really doing it for me. So it only took like a month of that before we were like multis is out.
I mean, it's cool that again, I mean, you obviously found your spot. You're pretty good at it.
Yeah, I
um,
like it all right.
you mentioned that you found out who Valerie Adams is, and that's not a name that I know.
Yeah,
Who is?
she's multiple Olympic champ, multiple world champ, has basically every accolade you can have in the women's shot put. She's thrown over 2150. She's just she's just great. But she's like the queen of shot basically. And she became like my idol, but even back then um I didn't really know about her till like my senior year, and she hadn't all the stuff she has now, but she had a lot of it. But as I was in college, I got more attracted to her even, because she was doing more when I was that age. And now we're friends, which is crazy. But like she really like made me realize that like shot put isn't like this box that I had put it in, which was just like this ball that I was chucking around and didn't really care about.
That's pretty awesome. You know, I obviously this is called Running New Mexico. I focus, more on running, and I'm a distance runner, and that's kind of, I focus even more on that. But it's pretty amazing on each sport. You can really kind of focus in and learn so much and find these people who are just killing it. But if you're not necessarily in the sport, you may not have any idea like who they are, even if they're amazing, which is a little bit sad in the way that track and field kind of highlights people.
Yeah, it's not like LeBron James, like everyone knows the name because he's good at the sport. Because I found too, like when I got to college, it wasn't even until I graduated college that I realized like what track and field, like the world actually was, like the professional world, like different level meets. Like I didn't know the Diamond League existed, like certain things that I just didn't even know. And I think like it's mainly an American thing though. Like American young track athletes don't know like how far this sport can go, and I think it deters them from doing track and field seriously. Everyone does it as like a I know a lot of people who do it as just to stay in shape for other said sport.
Right.
But like obviously too, like in New Mexico, like obviously the distance runners, they tend to be so good because they're running on mountains, and then I just you wonder like what some of them maybe could have done that didn't go anywhere when they left, the altitude
Right.
of Mars to come down. Like we're in space half the time.
Right.
Like
Right.
I wonder what you could do. Because
Well,
I mean
especially,
that's we have good distance runners. I know a lot of people that travel there in Colorado just to train, because of altitude training, and like a lot of people just don't know where this sport can take you.
exactly. I think that's like you said, it's the hard part. You're doing it. It's not on your radar because it's not. Unless you're Usain Bolt, like a large portion of
Mm.
the U.S. population doesn't know who you are,
Yep.
and that's a very small aspect of where you can go in the sport. Where again, most of these kids are, well, I'm doing it for basketball conditioning, or I'm doing it for football conditioning,
Yeah.
or
Yep.
I'm doing it for soccer conditioning, or whatever
Hmm.
whatever it is that they're not doing year round in clubs.
Yeah. I mean, it really is like I mean, I started off with track to keep me in conditioning for soccer and basketball at the time, and um, I just I never really saw it as like a like where I could be a professional, because in sport I'd always been like I want to be an athlete. Like that was like I'd been an athlete my whole life. Like I was like that's what I want to do. But like track wasn't the thing where I was like, you can't be pro in that. Now I'm like running around here traveling the world, and I'm like, oh wait, yes I can. Like what the heck? Like no one told me I would. Like I'm going to Holland on Monday, and then I'm going to Norway and Sweden. Like I'm running around the planet, and I had done this just to stay in shape. Like that's crazy to me that I didn't realize like what this sport is. Like it's so much bigger and greater than young kids really know it to be.
Right, right. And I can't imagine, you talked about, meeting an idol of yours and becoming friends with her. And, it just seems like on that level, well, I mean, at all levels, like you're meeting different people. So whether you're just doing it in New Mexico, you're meeting people, if you're in Los Alamos, you're meeting people from Albuquerque and Las Vegas, and you're meeting people from Socorro and this that you may not have otherwise have met. And each level you go up, now you're making friends and talking with people that you know come from everywhere.
Yeah, like I mean that's why funny enough I'm training in the UK now because I met my my now best friend. on the circuit. And like I wasn't like ever thinking I'd be sitting in the UK, talking to someone from New Mexico, like training out here, chilling. Like I never thought that would be a thing, but like it's just like the people I've met, like I have friends from all over the world now, and it's just crazy to me like what this sport has brought me. And it all started, like you said, with me traveling and having friends from all over New Mexico, to having friends from all over the US, to now having friends from all over the world. Like it's all developed, and it's pretty crazy to think, all because of like I wore some Converse and ran a 13-second 100-meter in a trial.
Yeah, that is. It's just so cool. I mean, again, you've put in a lot of work to be at this level, but it's part of the reason I like doing this is to talk to people. For some people, it is just I'm just running every day because I want to stay healthy, and that's just where they're at. But being able to get to this point where, yeah, you put in the work and you've got some talent and this and that, you could make it to this whole other aspect of where you're at. Just because you're in New Mexico doesn't mean you can't do that.
Yeah, I feel like honestly, like being from New Mexico, I feel like it's like I thought like we took sport, like I think we take sport more seriously than some places, but like it's just like in a different way. It's very like local and stuff. Like I had a lot of people, like I had so much support when I was running and stuff, and at state, like the amount of people cheering for me and stuff, like people are great about it. But like if they knew like how far it could go, I just feel like it would really change the whole way they learn about it. Like I really wish I knew like what this sport was like in high school. Because I would have taken things seriously earlier probably, and got to do some more stuff earlier. But I just don't think it's like talked about enough. And I don't know if it is anywhere, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like at any state level, like maybe like the big like California and Texas states,
Right.
but like in smaller states like ours, like it's not talked about. But I feel like in New Mexico, like track is like our numbers were never like bad, because like when I tell people like, yeah, like I won state and stuff, and they're like, well, how fast did you run, how far did you throw? And I was like, well, not as crappy as you'd think. Like it wasn't like the easiest thing I ever did.
Right.
Like I still almost had to throw 50 feet to win state in the shot. Like it wasn't just like, easy peasy. And so I think there's more talent in our little place of living than people think, especially in track.
Right. Right. I mean, we definitely, and it's hard to compare, what we're doing here to California or Texas or New York. I mean, just strictly for the number of
The
kids that
numbers,
you're,
yeah.
yeah, like it's, I mean, we have some talent, but we don't have the amount of people who are out competing. And,
Hmm.
from Los Alamos, because Los Alamos has always had some really big teams. I mean, the more people you have out, the the better you are, because you've got that competition daily of, I need to keep my place, or whatever it is you're working towards.
Yeah, I feel like Los Alamos, we were always lucky though too, because we also had the like foreigners, for lack of like the US, for like, you know what I mean, like because of the lab, we
Right.
had a lot of um big old kids that aren't exactly New Mexico kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my family is like New Mexico up and down, but um my dad's from Illinois, so I got them country corn-fed genes, like gave me this height and this size. And so like I know Los Alamos, we had that advantage because we had all the outsiders coming and working at the lab and bringing these big old kids. And but like I I just think like track is like especially in like New Mexico, I feel like track is a good sport for like our people, for lack of a better way to say that. That sounds so like New Mexicans, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Well, I kind of to that point, you talk about going to Oklahoma State, and there's a lot of kids from New Mexico who want to leave, but it's also very hard to leave because things are so different, outside the state. And I know lots of states it's like that, but New Mexico, when you talk about like being from New Mexico, it's a whole thing. Like your family's here, your grandparents, your uncles, your aunts. It's
Yeah.
like everybody is here, and you go out, and all of a sudden you're separated from all that and from Chile. So
Yeah, yeah, that was hard. That's hard now. Well, that's why I feel like New Mexico, it's like a different culture too. Like we tend to stay around because we're very family oriented. Like most of us are from small towns, like respectively, even Albuquerque's tiny compared to what I've been to now.
right,
And so it's just like I think like people find it harder to leave. Like the farthest people go tends to be Colorado, which is just around the corner. But
right.
I mean, like I understand that because it's almost like culturally we stay around our people, like our family. I keep saying that. It
Yeah.
sounds so weird. But it but yeah, like I found it really hard. Like I went to Oklahoma and my dad was in Illinois, and so I went to Oklahoma State because it was in between both my parents, and my mom, I obviously got recruited from like a lot of schools and like LSU and different schools. But a big factor of me going to Oklahoma State was that it wasn't too far from my mom. So like my mom had like her limit of how far I could go. And and that's like so like with what you said, like I had like I had my this is how far you can go. I wanted to go to LSU. My mom was like, "Dream on, you're not going like that far." Like so she let me go. In Oklahoma, like we went to Stillwater on my visit, and it was just like a fairly small town. Really like home, like it was just like quiet. And so I think my mom was like, yes. Like I'm not sending you to like some crazy school in a big city. And like it did play a big role in like where I went to college for sure.
Yeah, and I've seen that from other athletes for sure, and but Oklahoma had to feel so different for you. You know, I mean, from the mountains of Los Alamos to Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was flat. There was nothing there, if that's what you're wondering.
Yeah.
You could see for miles. Yeah, it was weird because it's obviously really like I mean, they're not in the South, but they think they are. Don't tell them I said that. But it's very like country. But not in our way, which is
Right.
weird. But yeah, it was super weird. Like obviously the people were way different. I was like, what is happening? I talked funny to people, which I never thought would would ever happen. And I feel like I've lost all my New Mexicanisms. I don't have them anymore. But like when I first went there, I'd be like, "E, that's crazy," and they're like, "What?" They're like, "What's an E?" It was weird.
Oh, that's that's funny.
It's true though. We don't realize we talk weird until we go somewhere else.
Right, right. I mean, there's definitely all those little things, and it's just funny, to to think about that, and and partially for me, I'm like, oh, Los Alamos, they never talked like that. They just all, like
Yeah. It's true though. Like I would go because like my family, most of them are in Espanola, and like obviously like they were who I was with, and then you go and Los Alamos isn't exactly the most New Mexican place, so I talked
right.
funny there too. but but yeah, I mean like I feel like we're in our own little world up there half the time. Like it's so weird. I love it though.
That
I always say the radiation is why I'm so good at sports.
well, that's great, but it does sometimes feel like Los Alamos is its own little pocket, like you talked about. So many different people who come in for the labs and this and that, and obviously, I mean, Albuquerque's the biggest city, and there's lots of people who come here, but it feels different because it's I don't know. There's so many different people, I guess.
Yeah, also like I feel like there's more like locals to like
Yeah.
balance it out, whereas ours it was like 10 to 1 people who weren't actually from New Mexico like originally. So
Yeah,
I
that's
feel that.
crazy.
And we definitely are like in our own little bubble. Like look at us with our mountain. Leave us alone.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of out of the way. It's not like on the way to Denver or on the way. It's kind of
Yeah.
it's tucked away in its nice little spot.
As it needed to be for historical purposes.
Right, right,
back back when it was made.
correct.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know. I like New Mexico. I always find it like funny too cuz I always forget that like I'm from this like smaller state with like 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 I always forget that I should be like repping the New Mexico, because I never thought like how many like oh god, did I ever think I would be where I'm at right now? Like no way. Like running around the world, like no flippin' way did I think that would be happening to me ever.
yeah. I mean, I can imagine, sitting on the top of Los Alamos thinking like, oh, this is fun, but what am I going to do with it?
Right. It's
And to
true.
now, yeah, like you're talking about. I mean, you're in Europe now. You're going to all these places. You've met all these people. I mean, still have plenty of life in this career to meet even more. Like it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad I went to throwing because my athlete lifespan is way longer in throwing than any other event.
Right,
Thank goodness, because there's always the outlier, but throwers can go forever. It seems
right, right.
they just go and
Just
go and go. I don't think I can't imagine me sprinting now. Ugh. I remember those workouts. No, thank you. Jeez.
I mean, I don't know. I think there's people who would think what you're doing is pretty tough. I mean, obviously there's a lot of technical stuff into it, but you have to be lifting a pretty decent amount as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I do like sprint workouts now. Anyway, I'm just like joshing, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, like I feel like the weight room is really like a lot of shot put. I think a lot of it has adapted now, though. The boys tend to be really strong, but like the girls, because we're only throwing like a 4 kilo ball, um, I think we're a little bit more on technique and speed and stuff. And
Okay.
so like I'm really strong like to the average person or average woman. But like not like outrageously like the men tend to be. But I also have
Right.
like weird strengths. Like I can do certain lifts that people look at me and think I'm weird for sure when I'm doing them, but I can do them like fairly strong and fast. And so yeah, I think a lot of our work is put in the weight room doing like just obvious basic lifts and then like technique specific lifts.
When you kind of made that transition to college, I mean, I'm sure you had some idea of how important the weight room was, but did you know like how important it really was for shot put and throwing?
No. In high school I like never lifted and my coach was always like wanting us to lift and I was kind of a lazy athlete most of my life, not gonna lie. I like relied a lot on like natural athleticism because both my parents were like freaks. And so I definitely was a lazy athlete and I feel like I don't regret it, But then like when I went to college and like I was like thrown into the weight room, I find that the NCAA, the most successful thing they do with athletes is strength training. Um, and I like it was a whole new world for me. I was like, what the heck? And they were like, what are your maxes? And I was like, what are you saying to me? Like, what's a max? Like, what do you mean? And so like I should have been lifting in high school, but sorry, Andy, but I was not. Um, uh, hopefully he doesn't hear this, but yeah, no, I definitely was not. Um, yeah, I just found this new world of lifting, and I actually hated it at first. It was the worst. Like I was like, this is stupid. Like, what am I doing? Like, I don't like this, and now I love it. I'm a shot put. I guess if I hate something, I should pursue it because I tend to fall in love with it later.
There you go.
Yeah, I used to hate the weight room. I love it now, though.
That's a great skill to have, to turn something you hate into something you love and are good at.
I know, right? Too bad it won't happen to like broccoli.
Yeah. Uh, you know, I coach some high school I coach high school, but I'm a distance coach and I do cross country, and so
Ugh.
like
No, I'm just
I,
kidding. Just kidding.
I I like watching the throwers, and I like seeing what they're doing in practice and at the meets and stuff, but I really don't know
Right.
anything. Like, obviously, like I can watch some of these guys, like you say, like you were very strong, and so you were good at it within the strength wise. But like, I guess walk me through, and anybody who's listening who doesn't really understand, like, what does it mean to have good technique in the shot put? Like, what goes into all of it? And
Well,
maybe
I mean, I
that's too
guess
big.
yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on like glide or rotation, but most high schoolers, I think, glide, which I personally think when you're young, you should glide because it teaches you like hit on the ball and stuff, like, because like how to finish and throw the shot is like really important. And then in like rotation, like it's so technical. Like the glide is more about like speed and just like strength and hit the ball. Like it's very simple. But the rotation is like it's just all these elements that you put together and it makes like this great thing. Cause I just recently started rotating like 4 years ago because I was gliding most of my career. And I found like in the glide where um, I would mess up one thing, it would kind of be the it was kind of over, like that you messed up. But in the rotation, like even now, my technique has so much to work on. But like there's so many other elements to it, technique wise, that as long as you do enough things right, you can still throw quite far. Like right now, I still have quite a lot of technical stuff that could get fixed, but I'm doing certain other things so well that the throw still goes. Glide's a lot less forgiving, um, because when you mess up one of three things, you mess up a third of your throw.
Right.
But regardless, they both involve a lot of technique, especially rotation. Though it's just so technical. I think people don't realize like how long we're spending just drilling to fix one little minute thing um, in our throw. But like a lot of people, like I wish more people would like not just like at my level, but especially at my level, like learn more about the throws because I feel like we don't have as much respect in certain areas. Like there's certain parts of Europe though that they love us, like Germany and Poland and stuff. They like I love going there to those places because they love throwing. But I think like we don't get as much respect in the overall professional world. Because like I know plenty about all the other events. I love watching track, like, which is something I also suggest for anybody wanting to, pursue track in any sort of like high level way, is to like know your sport, be a student of your sport, and by your sport I mean all of track and field. because like I watch so much track that like I can effectively watch any event and like be able to like be like, ooh, they did this, you know, ooh, they're doing this really well because I've watched so much of it. And I just wish like that was overall like the universal thing and people would do that with us, but it doesn't happen as much. But I think with everyone in any event, like to be a student of your sport is so important. Like it helps you understand like although this is an individual sport, like at the end of the day you're making teams and you're on a team together. Like right now, like I'm traveling alone, but when we get to world championships in Oregon, that's our home worlds, you know, like at the end of the day, that's my team and I want to know where they're at, how they're doing, like who's doing what, like like what events like we're looking for medals at and stuff, you know, and I think everyone should be like that at every level too. Just like know your sport and know the people in it and the basics of every event. Like I said, you know, I don't not watch distance, you know, like it's there, like so, you know, just I love track, so like I just like watching all of it and knowing about all of it. But I think all of us should do that. Should know at least the basics of all the events and you know who your people are in them. Like in high school, even like know what's going on in your state. You know, like know who's doing what, and you know watch and learn. And I think it'll just be better for the sport as a whole too if we all support each other in that way. I
I
don't know why I
completely
got so monotoned by the way there. Sorry about that. I just realized I was talking like a robot that whole time, like reading off a teleprompter.
no, that's good. I mean, it definitely sounds like something that you've said before. But
Yeah,
that's
I feel pretty passionate about that. Like I think it like I really want that to be like I think our sport could be so much bigger and I think it's a really fun sport to watch like if we like supported each other like in every event more and we're less selfish in our own like worlds like I I think like our sport would be in a different spot and have more recognition as a whole.
and I completely agree with you, and I think that's a great way to put it. I mean, there's such a lack of enthusiasm with track and field at kind of a professional level. I mean, and people they talk like, oh, track meets are too long and too this, and I mean, people still sit and watch a full baseball game, you know,
Yep,
like,
that's what I say. I say it
and
every time.
I enjoy
Me
baseball,
too.
but I also enjoy track, and you know, it does a disservice, like you're talking about, when you're cutting away from a distance event and you don't get to see the moves people are making, and you're cutting away from a a throwing event where you're missing what people are doing. You're just seeing the numbers on the screen. Or I mean the energy when people are getting into the high jump and long jump. I mean I'm I could ramble on, but
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. I think it's important for the sport for everybody to kind of come together and like, let's make this better on all levels and not just, oh, good, let's watch the 10th, replay of this 100.
Right. And I think my least favorite part is when there's field event finals going on and they're showing sprint semifinals or sprint heats. And I'm like, these are the
Right.
heats, like show the finals. One good thing I find in track and field is like there's no like gender bias. Like we're all there, we're all equal, and I really love that. Like all the events are catered and like changed for like you watch men's shot, right? And but the women throw the same like kind of way. So like women's hammer and men's hammer, they're going about the same but different ways. So like they're not seeing like there's not like this big like disparity in like genders because everything's adjusted in a way that the numbers aren't that off and everything's the same. We're all in the field at the same time. Like I really
Right.
love that. Like as a female athlete, like I'm there with the boys like in front of the same amount of people, the same crowd, like the same people are watching me do the same thing kind of thing. And so I find that that's like one amazing thing about track is like we don't have any gender disparity. Like we make the same money. Like if I win, I'm making the same money as you. You know what I mean? Like it's really nice about our sport. And for young female athletes, like, I think it's a good thing to look forward to. Like, if you want to go at a higher level, like, you're not going to be looked at as less than as an athlete.
See, and that's awesome. Like I didn't even realize that, and it's probably something I should have even thought about. But that you guys get paid the same. Like that's awesome. I mean, geez, we're hearing all the time about WNBA. I mean, women's soccer just fought for this. Like that's awesome that it's already built in. To whatever Diamond League or
Yeah.
USATF contracts, whatever
Yeah,
contracts you.
like, obviously, like, contracts are different because, like, as a base, I feel like us all making the same, like, that's equality to me. Like, if so and so he makes more money than me on like a sponsorship level because he has more followers or more this, like, that's
Right,
earned, that's deserved, like, fair enough. But at the end of the day, for like base, like, meet pay, like prize money and stuff, like at worlds, anything, we're all there, we're all in front of the same amount of people. The same amount of people, like, are sitting there for you as they were for me. Like, it's just great that, like, that there is no, like, just like, it's the same, like, it's equal in that aspect because we're all equal on that track at that time.
right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And through this whole conversation, it's really fun. Like your love for the sport and your love for what you're doing, really comes through. Like I can tell, like you really enjoy this, and so how, like, is that easy to keep up when you have a disappointing meet or a disappointing season or things that go down? Like, how hard is it to just kind of keep that optimism and this kind of love for it that you're expressing now?
I mean, this is a good question because, like, in 2019 was like my breakout season, obviously, and I was doing really good. I went into Worlds ranked like second or whatever. But I didn't do good at Worlds, and then COVID happened, and then 2021 was not exactly a good year for me. Like, I missed making the Olympic team, and then a couple weeks later threw well over what I would have needed to make the Olympic team and stuff like that. So it's just like there's like a lot of like hits you take, but like when you love something so much, it's almost like you just like keep fighting for it. And I was really struggling, and through all of it though, like, I never stopped like wanting it so bad. And so at the beginning of this year when I came out here to train with my friend, um I was still in that low spot. I was struggling. I couldn't even throw 18 meters in practice. Like, it's a struggle, but like, you sit there and you just like work so hard. And I was like, I worked really hard for this. Like, I can do this. Like, I know what I'm capable of. Like, this is my life. I love this so much. Like, you find that you get hit so many times, but like, if you love it enough and it's meant to be, like, you will fight for it and find yourself like just doing everything you can to like do what you know you're capable of in your sport. And it's so hard to stay in perspective all the time. Like, you obviously have your down times, but as long as you can stay in perspective, like, it's fine. Like, when I was when I came here and I had my new coach, he was just telling me, like, I know you're not seeing like the result you want, but like, you're changing your whole, at the time I was changing like my entry. And he said, you're changing your whole entry. Like, things are going to be rough, and it's not just, you're not going to see tangible results all the time. Like, the result isn't always going to be sitting in your hand for you to know it's there. And so he was like, you just have to wait and wait and wait. And then, like, um a couple, like, the week before Worlds, it finally clicked. Like, what we had been talking about finally clicked, and I was throwing consistently in my three practices leading into World Indoors, and I left with a medal, and that was not for like a rough season. Like, there was a rough indoor season for me, like, leading into that. But you just have to like stay in perspective and be like, this, like, I'm working hard, like, I'm doing everything I need to do, it'll come. Like, as long as you do everything you need to do, like, it'll come. And you just fight for it.
That is, again, like just a great attitude, and I think kind of talks kind of through your whole career, like just this, be patient and work on things, and you've continually got better, and it's amazing to see you at the level that you're at now. Like I said, I mean, not just out there competing, but in a position to, you know, make Olympic trials and you know, possibly make a team and make worlds and medal and now outdoor worlds coming up and you're in a great position. And it's just, it's awesome to see that kind of work, you know, pay off and just with the attitude you have of it all, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, like, but I just love this sport so much, and as much as like at a bad practice where I'm like, I hate this job. Like, I'm always like deep down, like I know I just love this sport so much. I just want to do good at it, and I feel like I'm capable of great things in my sport as long as I just, even through the hard times, put my head down and just keep working, even when it's tough, just to keep moving.
That's great. That's awesome. So you
Yes.
talked about you know, you're training in England now. You're going to be going to a couple of other meets here soon, and obviously USA nationals. I think are at the end of June.
Yeah, I'm competing on the 26th, I do believe.
Okay, 26. So that for whoever's listening and wants to you know, make sure you're paying attention to that.
Yeah, exactly. June 26th.
June 26th.
In good old
Um,
Tracktown, USA.
that's. I mean, what does it feel like to have worlds in the United States? Because I mean, obviously you'll have U.S. championships here, but that worlds is going to be in Eugene is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to like a home worlds. Still got to do the work and make the team, but I feel like
Right.
I've done all the work this year, and I'm training really hard, and um I think like making the world team and then having a worlds where my mom's gonna be there and stuff, like it's just amazing to me. Like, it sucks because I finally have a worlds where I don't have to travel across the world to do it, and now I have to travel across the world to do it. But luckily I travel well.
Yeah.
Um
Good.
but yeah, it's I'm so excited. Like, I also love like Hayward Field. Like, I love Eugene. Like, it's such a great place to compete with amazing people, and they love track, so the crowd's going to be wild. Um
Right.
but I'm so excited to like have a major championships with my family there. And yeah, I'm just excited for nationals. Going to try and make this team. Hopefully try and get another title under my belt. I'm going to do all I can. USA
That's
shot put is very deep. Um
yeah.
all my girls throw far, so I know it ain't going to be an easy task, but
I mean,
I'm going to go for it.
how close are kind of that group of girls? I mean, I'm assuming you guys see each other, you know, fairly often.
Oh yeah, like we're tight. I think people like often don't realize, like, when you travel the world with people and you're with people all the time and you're away, like, we train together, like we practice together at meets, we live together, like we do a lot of stuff. We stay in rooms together, like we're all very close. Like, it's a pretty close knit group. Like, we're cheering for each other. If one of us, like, if I looked at any of them and asked them to look for something technical in my throw, they would tell me. Like, we're just really tight. Like, most of the pro groups, I think, in field events are like that though. Like, I think like pole vaulters and shot putters probably more on the, we're a lot closer because we're around each other so long. Like, you're just standing around with each other forever. But yeah, it tends to be like that, especially on the pro circuit. You just get really close.
I can imagine. It's got to be, you know, like I said. I mean, you're obviously not rooting against anybody, but you know, you're competing because your spot is on the line. So I'm sure that can be. I don't want to say difficult, but you know, you feel bad for some people at times. I'm sure.
Yeah, people always go like, your competitors, la la la. Like, even now training with my friend because she's on the circuit too. They're like, how do you train with like one of your competitors? And we're like, well, at the end of the day, anything like, there's nothing that like I'm going to do that. Like, however she performs is how she's going to perform, you know? I'm not going to be able to control that whether or not I'm hanging out with her after the practice or not, you know? Like, that it's just an uncontrollable. So, like, we don't like worry about that stuff with each other. So like me and Maggie, for instance, she's the US number 2 right now. Like we're really close. Like we talk all the time where I'm constantly making sure like she's good, like checking on her training. I just sent a bunch of Nike stuff to her house that she's gonna bring to me. Like we're just like you just get close with people and like um you just support each other like whether or not like I'm screaming for her to do good in a throw, like she's gonna throw far if she wants to throw far, you know, like I have no control over that. So there's no reason for us not to support each other when there's nothing's going to change whether or not we sit and ignore each other or if we cheer each other on, you know? And I think that's just like maturing in the sport too. Like, I know a lot of young kids, it's all about like competition and this whole thing. But like, as you get older, you realize like whether or not you walk around like, you know, you got the biggest britches, like, it doesn't matter. Like, like, that's not going to change how other people perform.
Right. That makes sense. You talked about competing at Hayward Field. You've already been there. What is that new stadium like? Because from the outside, I mean, just watching videos and pictures, I mean, it just seems pretty amazing. But what is it like actually being in there and being on the ground there?
Oh, it's a really great stadium. It's really beautiful. Um, the shot rings are pretty cool. It's just really nice. I went there for um trials and then I was there for like another meet, a gold level meet, a journey to gold meet, and it's just like a really good atmosphere. Like I think honestly it could be like a rickety bleachers and a crumbling track and the vibe would still be good because it's Eugene, you know, like people just
Yeah.
like the vibe there's just always good because it's like the one place where it feels like our sport is respected. And so it's just like it's a beautiful stadium too. It's gorgeous. Except for I feel really bad for they put like little memorabilia things in the walls and the floors and there's one in the women's bathroom on the floor and I was like, I don't want to be that guy. They have them in the bathrooms. I was like, maybe put the memorabilia not in the bathrooms. But other than that, it's beautiful.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, um, well, I think that's a great spot to wrap up with memorabilia in the bathroom.
Yeah. It's funny though. I saw it and I said, I don't want to be that guy with my my memorabilia on the girls' bathroom floor. Like,
Oh, oh, that's kind of funny.
yeah.
um, well, it is. This has been a lot of fun, and hopefully everybody tunes in and checks out your throws, whether they can get a hold of these other ones coming up, or if it's nationals. To hopefully cheer you on to a birth to the worlds. I I'm excited for you. I'm going to be cheering you on for sure.
Thank you.
And but I'll just kind of end with the last question I ask everybody, and that's just, what are you listening to get you pumped, get you ready for a lifting session, or to go out and make a big throw?
Well, see, I am an eclectic music lover.
Love that.
So it can be a range of things, but if I had to say something I listen to the most, it would probably be the Greatest Showman soundtrack is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Um, which sounds weird to me every time I say it, but it bops, man. It's pretty
All
good.
right.
It'll pump you up.
I don't know if I've ever listened to that.
You should. You got to watch the movie. It's so good.
I don't think I think my kids watched it with my parents, but I don't think I've seen it.
You have to see it. It's so good. I love it.
All right.
It was on the planes when I was traveling and before it was on the planes and you watch a lot of movies and I
Yeah,
would just watch it over and over again because it's just so good and it would always pump me up too.
that's awesome. I'll have to check it out. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for making this work, across an ocean and everything. Um, is there anything else you'd like to add before I let you go?
No, I think we summed it up. I think we about covered everything. Thanks for having me.
I'd once again like to thank my guest for their time, and thank you for tuning in. If you have the opportunity, please rate and review wherever you listen to your podcasts, or just help spread the word. Music was provided by Philip Friedman. You can follow him on SoundCloud at DJ Teach. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at RunningNM. Feel free to drop me a line or shoot me an email at runningnewmexico@gmail.com if you have any questions or know of someone who should be interviewed. In the meantime, keep running, New Mexico.